Let me mute everyone. So, first of all, I gotta make an announcement today. So here's an name change announcement. So as part of the forthcoming advanced Buddhism classes, I thought of teaching and sharing with you some critical Buddhist terms. But there won't be much difference in terms of focus up to this moment. Also, what we have done until last Friday was that we would choose a certain topic and then would talk about by using the corresponding Pali terms. But why I'm saying that there's no much difference in focus is so that how we had been doing was that we would choose a topic in general and we would talk about with reference to a number of non-English, I mean Pali words. Whereas from today onwards, we will choose one single critical Buddhist term and then elaborate on that. That's what I'm saying, that there's a change in focus. Focus is not completely different. So subsequently, I would like to call this class a Buddhist terminology class. And some of who are in the Zoom meeting for the first time, for them, I would like to say that we are now in the middle of organizing talk series on the Satipatthana Sutta, on the discourse on the 4 foundations of mindfulness, which is the first and foremost sutra in terms of Buddhist spiritual practice. That being said, today's term is GOCARA. Let me spell that word as GOCARA. GOCARA, pronounced GOCARA. So today's topic is GOCARA in psychological perspective. And every time we talk about Buddha's teaching, we would definitely look at his teaching from a psychological perspective. Why I'm specifically saying that these Buddhist terms are going to be studied or viewed or looked at in psychological perspective is psychological angle, psychological perspective, the best perspective in that we could use to look at Buddha's teachings, because all the teachings of the Buddha are based on our mind, and everyone is familiar with the first, the very first statement in the Dhamma Talk. Everything is run by the mind. Or the mind is the mind runs everything. Our problems, the way we look at our problems, our freedom, the way we approach, the way we struggle to secure our freedom, the way we connect and maintain our connections with the world, with one another, our life, our expectations, our purposes. You could look at the Buddha's teaching in cultural perspective, in historical perspective, in social perspective, anthropological perspective. Then, unless you look at his teachings in psychological perspective, and you wouldn't be able to see that the spirituality of the Buddha. We never want to talk about the history of Buddhism, culture of Buddhism, or the anthropology of Buddhism. We don't need those academic approaches here. But if you need, as we want to apply his teachings into our day-to-day life, it's a must that we look at his teachings in psychology, from a psychological standpoint. So the word GOCARA, G-O-C-A-R-A, GOCARA, which is a Pali term, and the topic is GOCARA in psychological perspective. First, let's look at the etymology of this term. It is two words actually, go, G-O, go, and chara, C-A-R-A, is pronounced as not kara, but chara. Go literally means cattle. Go literally means cattle. Chara comes from the root chara, to roam over, to wander around, to roam, to travel. Charity literally means chara, which comes from the Pali Sanskrit root chara, literally means to roam over, to wander, to travel around, to move around. So go chara. So, go is cattle and chara is roaming over or wandering around, moving around. Or grazing over. So charity is to graze, roam over, wander. Now, then gochara means grazed over by cattle. Gochara. So as you know, graze means to eat small portions of food throughout the day. That's how cattle do. The herd of cattle would just graze over a meadow, and then they would travel in search of food. How the cattle do is they don't rush to swallow their food. They simply graze, meaning they eat in small portions of food throughout the day. You know, when they get a really good meal, what they do is they would fill the second stomach, and then later on, and they would just lie down and they would chew the cud. That's how they do. So I'm still in the middle of explaining the meaning of this term. So go is cattle, chara is to graze over, to roam over, to wander around, travel around. So then gochara together means what? Pasture. Gochara is pasture land, a piece of land where cattle graze over, cattle roam over, cattle wander around. So, and gochara then is the place where a piece of land, where cattle wander around, roam over in search of food, and they keep grazing over. Uh, uh, the grass throughout the day, and they are very slow. And so that the gochara, in layman's language, in general English, gochara means the pasture land. It's the pasture land, gochara. So now you know the etymology. Why it is called the pasture land, gochara? Go is cattle, go means cattle, chara means grazing over, roaming over, wandering over. Now create a picture of a herd of cattle just wandering around in the large, in the vast land, and they are very slow, and they are slowly eating small portions of their food or grass. They are feeding on the grass very slowly. They are not in a hurry. They take time. That's their behavior. Now that's what gochara literally means. Now what is the connection of this term? What's the significance of this term as a Buddhist term? Now that's the essence of, that's the more important part of this short Dhamma Talk. As I said, just for the general knowledge of those who just came into the meeting, from today onwards, we would choose we choose one critical Pali Buddhist term for the day, and then we would elaborate on that term, and then see how the term corresponds to the Buddha's teachings. And the entire discussion would be in psychological perspective. Now that you know the meaning of gochara, means pasture land, now let's see its connection to Buddha's teachings, or its significance as a Buddhist term. Now, it has an idiomatic. So literally, gochara means the pasture land. And idiomatically, its idiomatic meaning is sense object. Now that's the term. Its literal meaning is pasture land. And its idiomatic meaning is sense object. What is a sense object? You all know that. We've talked about that multiple times. Anyway, I must explain the sense object. Now we all have 5 sense faculties: our eyes, our ears, our nose, our tongue, and our skin. There's a 6th sense as well, which is the mind. But we basically use the first 5 sense faculties to observe the world, to remain interconnected with the world, to perceive the world, to know about the world. So, so the sense faculties are our eyes, our ears, our nose, our tongue, and our skin. Those are the first five sense faculties. Now, what do we do with these sense faculties? We observe the world, we remain interconnected with the world, we perceive the world. Eyes, with eyes we see images, we experience images, that's a better term. We experience, with our eyes, we experience images, whether pleasant or unpleasant. With our ears, we experience sounds, whether pleasant or unpleasant. With our nose, we experience smell, whether good or bad. With our tongue, our palate, we taste the taste, whether bitter or sweet, or in between, or a mixture of both. And with our skin, we experience anything tangible. So that is called sensory perception. According to Buddhist psychology, our experience, our perception, our knowing, our seeing, our viewing the world is necessarily sense-based. Without senses, we cannot experience that, we cannot perceive, we cannot observe, we cannot, we wouldn't be able to know. So sensing, experiencing, perceiving, knowing, now all this is through our sense faculties. And whatever we experience with our sense faculties are called sense objects. And we already said that. Now, still, connection to the term is not clear. Okay. Now imagine a herd of cattle. Roaming over a pasture land, and they are slowly grazing the grass. They are slowly eating small portions of grass, and they will keep doing that throughout the day. Now, when they are so much into feeding on the grass, and then they would easily ignore, they would easily get distracted by the presence, they would get easily distracted. Subsequently, they might fall victim to predator animals. There could be big cats like tigers and lions hiding ready to ambush. That's how they do that. And most of the time, that's how predator animals attack, ambush prey animals. They wait for the prey animals like cattle to get distracted by their meal, by their eating, by their grazing. And that's when the moment is right, when the moment is perfect, and they would ambush, they would attack. So that's how it happens. That's the encounter between a predator animal and a prey animal. Now, why Buddha has used this term GOCARA in his description of sensory observation or sensory experience. By the way, experience is necessarily sense-based. So our experience is necessarily sensory. Or it is sensory experience, and no need to say sensory experience. Experience is necessarily, essentially based on our sense faculty. So the connection is that the cattle would very easily get distracted by their obsession. It could be obsession in case they are really hungry, so that they might get obsessed with the grass or the pasture that they are feeding on. And then they would slowly focus, and they will remain focused on their meal. And as the moment a big cat, a lion, or a tiger, or maybe other predator animals like hyenas, wolves, a pack of wolves, a pack of hyenas, they would charge, they would attack. Now, and Buddha says, unenlightened people, ordinary people, so, and in their effort, in their need to satisfy their sense faculties, to satisfy our sense faculties means to satisfy your sense faculty, to satisfy their sense faculties means to gratify our existence. So that unless we are happy with what we observe, what we experience, we may get fed up with our existence. We may get frustrated with our experience. We may get depressed with our experience. And that's how some people commit suicide. They kill themselves. And then, even though everyone needs wealth, money, billionaires, rich people commit suicide, they kill themselves because money beyond a certain point in their life, the wealth that they have earned, money they have earned, fail to bring them happiness. So probably they got too much distracted by their urges, by their needs, especially when it comes to celebrities and rich people, some rich people, not everyone. And you would read on the news, day-to-day news, that they are on medication, they are depressed, but they are rich. And then the poor also go through the same thing. The impoverished people, they also face the same thing due to their economic hardships. And it's understood. But it is problematic in a psychological sense to see that the rich people get depressed too, because they don't see the limits. When you fail to see the limits of your enjoyment and you get easily distracted, at the same time you need to be aware of your surroundings. Just like when the herd of cattle fail to remain aware of its surroundings, and then the herd might lose some of its members. Today, if it's a herd of like 20 cattle, maybe today the 19th one was eaten by, hunted by a big cat. Tomorrow could be another one. And then everyone of the herd would remain at the risk of losing their life to a predator animal, to a lion, to a cat, to a wolf, or a hyena, any predator animal. So that's what happened to us too. Now, Buddha says, ordinary people, average people are just like the cattle, feeding on the pasture, getting distracted by their eating, getting distracted by their obsession with the grass, obsession with the past, obsession with the pasture. And then just like pasture becomes a trap, becomes a trap to the cattle, our own sense, our own experience, our own observations may easily become a trap for us. We may get easily trapped in our own experience, in our own observations, in our own perception. Perception is more of a, it's more Buddhist as a term. Perception. Remember elsewhere you might have heard that from the Buddha's teaching that perception is like a mirage. A mirage is real, at the same time it's not real, like surreal. It's real. A mirage appears to be real, and it looks like the water at a distance. When a thirsty animal run to the point where they see the water is, like the deer running after the mirage. The more they run, the mirage, the water gets further away because it doesn't stay in a certain point. The deer sees the mirage maybe a mile away, half a mile away. But by the time the deer rush to the point, the only outcome would be that they get tired. And then they see the mirage at a distance again. They keep running. Now, so they don't know the limit. They don't know that it's not real. Now, Buddha says, unless we understand and analyze two things, we need to see our limits when we go in pursuit of happiness. Limits. Number one, reason number one. First, we must be concerned about our limits. And that shouldn't discourage you to set higher limits, though. You have to set highest limits in your life that you can achieve those limits, try your best. But at the same time, you need to see your capacity in your effort to achieve those limits. And then second thing that we need to concern about is in pursuit of joy, happiness, gratification in our life is how much we need. Again, that's connected to limits. I would like to say, if I put it another way, whether we need to see the difference between why and how. When you only think about how, you may easily forget why. Before you start embarking upon a certain goal in life, you need to take a second look and see why you must do that. Most of the time, this why approach is healthy. Why approach helps us save our time, and it can help prevent us from getting into trap our own perceptions. So otherwise, just like the cattle feeding on the pasture, get distracted and get hunted and eaten by predator animals, we may get into trouble we may get into, we may even see an irreversible, painful eventuality in our life unless we see our limits and then how far we need. That's all I could say, Coach. Thank you. Any questions? I welcome questions now. If there are no questions, uh, for those who are attending the meeting the first time, I'd like to say, toward the end of this brief talk, we would start the meditation. But anyway, and the meeting wouldn't last until we finish the meeting, and we will only open the meditation session and few, and then, so that I would end the meeting, and you may continue to meditate as long as you wish. Let me hit the bell for the meditation on. And let's take a few long, deep breaths. Every time holding on to it for a few seconds and then breathing out. Deep breath really helps us break our stress. And then slowly bring your attention to your nostrils. Keep your awareness, attention around your nostrils, around just about the upper lip. And then so that we could see the incoming breath beginning and the outgoing breath ending at the same point. With each incoming breath and with each outgoing breath, make the aspiration, this aspiration that you yourself, I myself, we ourselves have to take care of ourselves happily. In the long run, we need to take care of ourselves. People have to deal with their own problems. We are grateful to many people in our life, and at times they are doing too much for us. Despite their own problems, we can totally depend on them. Especially when it comes to our happiness, our inner peace, we need to depend on our own self. For that, we should be able to breathe. Most of the time, we don't feel like breathing. Even though the breathing is a natural biological process, we don't feel like breathing. That's why we are being reminded by the police, by our medical doctors, our friends, to take a deep breath. And close your eyes slowly. And leave your palms together on your lap. And keep your back upright. And slowly start disconnecting yourself from immediate surroundings. Immediate surroundings would otherwise remain a source of external distraction. And then slowly look into your mind. And just take a look at any feeling, any sensation, any memory, any thought, any tendency that is against our focus at this point, hence anti-focus. Against our focus means our focus at this point is our breath. Just like you are disregarding noise, sounds from your surroundings, you are now beginning to disregard those inner distractions, internal distractions as well. And there could be another problem arising. That is to say, some emotional, mental pains or bodily or physical pains. When such pains occur, be happy that you are being given an ample opportunity to see that your mind is not perfect as you may think. Your body is not perfect as you think. Our body and mind are subject to change, subject to decay, subject to get weakened, subject to get enervated. Not to be negative, but that's the reality. And by the way, then, don't run after or analyze those external and internal distractions. And at the same time, don't get agitated by those mental, emotional pains and bodily or physical pains. You come from different levels of meditation. Some do samatha, some do vipassana, meaning some do calm, some do insight. Whichever the level of meditation that you have been practicing in your life, stick to that. Go to your own level and do that, and continue as long as you wish. And then I will now end the meeting, and then so please continue to meditate. So, and see you next Friday as well. Buddha bless you. Omitoku. Have a beautiful weekend. Have a beautiful, peaceful night.